So I don't mind spending time alone, but you really don't have anybody to ask questions of or anything like that. You're just on your own.
I think it's the word genius because not many people would think of themselves as being a genius.
Right.
Hi, everybody. Welcome.
Welcome. Happy.
Well, today is a Jewish New Year.
Yes, so Happy New Year, sweet New Year.
Shana Tova to all those out there that celebrate.
And
love.
We are
The mother-daughter dynamic duo.
And I am Coach Rochelle.
I'm Coach Alicia Schwartz.
And we are certified relationship coaches.
And mental wellness. You got to have that mental
You
wellness to keep you going in the world.
So why don't you tell them why we have the podcast?
So the podcast,
Our
right?
intention.
Together We Rise is all about, okay, sorry about that. That's interesting. Together We Rise is all about people of all walks of life that we have on the podcast, amazing individuals that have gone through certain trials and tribulations, where they've come from and how they've made it through the other side. And really, it's about giving people hope and inspiration.
And I think we all need that.
And love.
I really do. Yeah. They say love heals all.
Yeah. And also really about not only our guests, but about, who we are in our journey as well. So, that's important too, for you to know who is the mother-daughter dynamic duo, so we'll go into that further at some point. We're going to do some other stuff around that. But today we have a very special guest and we're going to bring her up in a few seconds. But before we do that, Roche, let's thank our sponsors.
And one of them is the International Wellness Alliance, and that's Elaine Sugar, and she is the CEO founder. And then Mick Factor, who is Mick Hunt.
Thank you, Mick.
Thank you. And then we have our
social media. Guys, if you want to ever use the most amazing people to help you with your branding, your social media, they are prexagency@gmail, right? Is that correct? Yes.
Yeah.
So you can look for them as well. They'll help you. They've helped us tremendously.
Yeah, they really have.
And all those goodies. So,
okay.
Mom, what are you reading?
I always love to read something before we start. I just feel that it opens your heart and it sets the stage. And so it comes from this beautiful book, which is Your Holiness by Debbie Ford.
Ding. Yay. Okay.
And so it's called Holy Commitment. In this life and beyond, with every breath I take, with every word I utter, with every choice I make, with every twinkle of my soul's light, I promise to share the never-ending shining love that I am, with all beings everywhere and forevermore. I love that. Just take a nice deep breath and breathe it in.
Breathe all that in. One more thing, we want to just, say our prayers for all the people that were affected by, Hurricane Helene, North Carolina,
so much
Asheville,
devastation.
Tennessee, Florida. We are sending our thoughts and prayers, and just go to a trusted organization and donate whatever you can. Everybody needs to help everybody.
Yeah.
So I know Bethany Frankel has a great organization.
Mm-hmm.
You could check that out.
There's so many.
Strong.
Yeah.
And there's so many. Red Cross. I mean, there's a million different, organizations. So we wanted to say that too.
Yes, we did. And so we send our love and healing and lots of prayers for a quick recovery.
And bum. Now we are going to share our lovely guest tonight. Let's welcome Miss Shelly Lombard. There she is.
Thank you. It's nice to be with you guys. You guys are love and light. So thank you.
Right back at you.
Yes.
So Shelly, why don't you tell people who you are, what you do, give us a little bit about who you are, your story a little bit, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So I I was a writer. Then I went back to school and got my business degree in finance, specialized in finance, and I wanted to work on Wall Street. And so I did. And I did that for 35 years. And one of the things that I learned probably very late was the importance of relationships. So we often realize that we need to be very intentional about our personal relationships, with our neighbors, our family, etc. I interviewed a woman who said she lives up here in the New York City area. She has a sister who had kids. And so she realized if she wanted her nephews and her nieces to know who she was and be a presence, not just pop in at holidays and pop out, she needed to be very intentional about being involved in their lives. And so work relationships, it's similar in terms of building relationships, business relationships. You need to be very intentional. So after I left Wall Street, I'm shy and I'm an introvert. And so I never, thought about I was friendly at work, etc., but I never thought about the importance of relationships for business. And so what I do now is a company called Schmooze, which I launched, which helps women we encourage women, coach women, and provide opportunities for women to network and build their network of strong business relationships.
So let me ask you a question. What is it about you? Because I watch you and on LinkedIn, and I see all these people that absolutely adore you. What is it about you that gravitates them to you? Because there is something very special. What do you think it is?
I have no idea. So I think when we are operating, so there's a book by Gay Henderson, and it says he says that you have a zone of incompetence, a zone of competence, a zone of excellence, and a zone of genius. And so we try to be, sometimes, especially when you run a business, they say you need to be able to do everything. But his thing is, don't even try to operate even in your zone of excellence. Your zone of genius is where the magic happens. And so I think I was a really excellent writer. I was pretty much in my zone of competence on Wall Street. I won't say I was like a really fabulous Wall Street person, but I think now for whatever I'm doing, I feel like I'm in my zone of genius. And so when you're in your zone of genius, people are attracted to you. You know what I mean? Like they sense something and they're attracted to you. So
I think it's the word genius, because not many people would think of themselves as being a genius.
right.
And so maybe what people are so attracted to is you've embraced that part of you. The genius in you attracts people to open up to their genius.
And I think the other thing is I have a newsletter called Schmooze, which is available on LinkedIn. And I interview women who have been much better than I had been about building business relationships. And one woman I interviewed recently said she does her work in public. So in other words, she had a newsletter. When she goes to network events, she makes sure, to introduce herself. She uses social media. And she says, when you do your work in public, then people are drawn to you because they realize, especially if you're authentic and you're operating in your zone of genius, it's almost like people are like, oh, they're drawn to you. So you kind of almost create your own network because people appreciate what you're doing. And like I said, they're drawn to you. So I was quite taken by what she said. She said that's how she built a tech company and she sold it. Every entrepreneur's dream to build a company and then make money by selling it. And she lived the dream. And she said she quote unquote did her work in public. She tried to be authentic, but she kind of let people know what she was doing. She was on LinkedIn. She did a newsletter, and that enabled her to build a successful business.
Interesting.
Now, do you do things in person?
I do.
Oh, you
So
do?
our Schmooze events. So we started just doing events. Not so much networking events, but events that you could bring a client to or a colleague to. So when I worked on Wall Street, we always, meaning the bank, whatever bank I worked for, always had tickets to like basketball games, the Knicks games, or the Giants games, or the Yankees games. And the guys would take each other, or they would go play golf. And that was how bonded with clients and networked with clients. And the women would just go to dinner. So I was like, you know what? The women need something too. So I started Schmooze as almost like an event company. So we had a series of events, poker night for women, where we taught women to play poker. We had manicures, massages, and margaritas. That's
I
probably
love
our
that.
signature event that everybody loves. We had a coffee tasting. And so that's how it started. But a lot of women I noticed wouldn't bring anybody. They would come by themselves. So they were missing the networking piece. And so I started the mini masterclasses to encourage women to network. How do you build a network at work? Because building your network at work is how you stay employed. It's how you know what's going on in the company and that kind of stuff. People can say, oh, a layoff's coming up. This is happening. So building your network at work is how you stay employed. And then having your network outside of work is how you have support, you learn stuff, and you also have a place to bounce back from should anything happen at work. So I started having the classes. I bring in coaches to teach women to do that.
That
That's
sounds
interesting.
fabulous. I
That
wish you were
really-
here in Florida.
Yeah, I do too. So a question that we want to ask you, what's the one thing,
What's your biggest?
wait a minute, what's the one thing you want people to know about you?
Doesn't matter.
One woman that I had on, she was excellent. She talks about reciprocity.
Mhm.
And so she built her network. Her view is the way you build a network is to serve people first. So in other words, it's not about you. It's like, how can I help you? And so she was excellent. And she did that with me. So I think we connected on LinkedIn. And she came to a Schmooze event. She's in the New York City area. She came to a Schmooze event, I think manicures, massages, and margaritas. And she noticed that I served a dessert. I think it was cupcakes or something as people were going out the door. So like a few weeks later, she messaged me and said, hey, I have a woman-owned cookie company. Would you be interested? She connected me with them. And then I started buying their cookies, which say Schmooze on them, to give to people as they walked out of the door. So it didn't need to be like, she didn't connect me to like somebody, huge and important.
Right.
She connected me to just a cookie company. And
Right.
she continued to do that, like introduce me to people who she thought might help my business, that I might enjoy talking to, etc. And so her name is Kelly Lynn Adams. She's an executive coach, but her view is serve first. Always be thinking about how you can help the other person. And that's how we became, friendly. So I think what I've tried to do is do something similar to that model, reciprocity. So I'm on a couple of corporate boards. Women always want to ask me about how I got on the board, what do they need to do? And probably at least twice a week, I am giving free advice to women about how to get on a corporate board. And I try to, like one woman, I didn't know anything. She had her own business about what she was doing. I was like, look, just look at my LinkedIn network. If there's anybody there you want to meet, and I know them well enough, I'm happy to introduce you. So I really try to reciprocate. And I think that is, I will talk to anybody. I will try to help anybody. And I think, look, I have the time to do it now because I'm kind of semi-retired. But I think that is one thing I would want people to know about me.
Yeah, and I bet that gives you so much humility and humbleness and gratitude, because you're really helping someone else by reaching and saying, hey, how can I help you? How can I serve you? Which is
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
amazing.
And when Kelly first said that, I was like, yeah, okay. But she taught a Schmooze mini masterclass, and she talked about all the ways you can help in business. Maybe an introduction to somebody, maybe just liking their posts. I mean, you guys on social media, so somebody liking your post or commenting on your post means LinkedIn will show it to more people.
Right.
So she, talked about that, and it was just very simple ways to connect with someone and be helpful. And that's what she did with me. And so I had adopted that without really knowing it. She put a theme around it and kind of made it, not official, but said, look, yes, this is something that is good to practice. And so, I'm glad I embraced that. So that's something I would want people to know about me.
Yeah,
Kelly's a great
We
lady.
love Kelly Lynn.
Yeah, we love
She's
her.
amazing. She really is.
That might be how I met you guys. I'm not sure.
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Exactly. She's amazing.
Awesome.
Yes.
People who were in her class were like, "Oh wow, that was life changing."
Yeah.
She gave an amazing class. She's amazing.
She is.
So here's a great question. If you were going to give someone the best advice in life, where you are today, what would it be?
So I'm gonna leave the personal relationship to somebody else. I'll leave that to somebody else. Work relationships, I didn't want to, and I didn't envision myself as a thought leader on networking or building business relationships. I just wanted to help women avoid the mistakes that I made. And so that's kind of what Schmooze is about. And I'll give you an example. So when I worked for Chase Bank, and you guys probably
Chase.
yeah, worked for Chase Bank, and we merged with a big bank up here, which I don't know if they had in your region called Chemical. And so when they merged, they asked everybody who was vice president and above to come, to this meeting. And the big senior guy, the big honcho, gave a pep talk. And so I was one of the few. I think I was the only Black woman in the room. And so, but as a result, he knew my name. And so he would see me in the elevator. He'd be like, "Hi, Shelly." And then he was big on what we call on Wall Street FaceTime. So he would walk around the trading floor at 7 o'clock at night to see who was still working, because he liked to see everybody working. That was his thing, FaceTime, being in the office. So he would walk around the floor at 7 o'clock at night, and he'd be, "Hi, Shelly." And I would say, "Hi." And I'd put my head down and keep working. And he kind of seemed like he wanted to chat, but I'm so shy and I'm an introvert, and I didn't realize the importance. He could have turned into a mentor. He could have turned into a sponsor. He wasn't ignoring me. He went out of his way to say something. But again, I'm shy. I'm an introvert. And so in terms of one thing that women have said to me who have been very good at it, they've said curiosity is a relationship hack. So this guy loved banking. He loved what he did. And if I had just asked him, "Oh, so I heard the bank is doing XYZ deal," or "I heard such and such thing happen on Wall Street," I wouldn't have been able to shut him up. And that could have been the start of a relationship, but I just never thought like that. And so, that's one of the things that I've learned that I wish I knew, because it's very simple. People love to talk about themselves.
Absolutely.
He loved to talk about what he did and the bank. He was so proud of working at Chase and that kind of stuff. And all I had to do was kind of engage him in conversation, not to talk about myself, but to ask questions about him and the bank and what projects we were working on, et cetera. And I probably would still be at Chase now, because he was a great mentor. And if he liked you, that was like your career was set. And I just never learned to do that. It didn't even occur to me to do that. So that's the kind of stuff that I tell women now about curiosity, using that as a relationship hack. It helps you, and it probably is personal as well, because you meet somebody in networking, you ask about their kids, you ask about their travel, what's the best restaurant you've been to lately, that kind of stuff. And so the curiosity, both on the business front and on the personal front, is a great way to connect with people.
Yeah, totally.
And you have a daughter, am I correct?
I have a daughter and a son.
Oh, you have a son too. Okay.
Yep. My daughter's 30, my son is 27.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So another great question is, if I can see it. Thank you. What book inspired you so much that it changed your life for the better?
So a couple. One is called the one I just mentioned. I forget what it's called, but it's by Gay Henderson, and it's where he talks about your zone of genius, zone of competence, zone of excellence, etc. There's another one called what it is. Think about the problem. Focus on the problem, not the solution. And so his his view was in building a successful business, fall in love with the problem, not the solution. So don't create something and then expect people to use it. Don't create, build it, and they will come. What's a problem that you're trying to solve for people? That is the key to building a successful business. So that one was business changing. I don't know if it was life changing, but it was business changing for me, because it's kind of like, okay, what problem am I trying to solve for women in the workplace? And so that was life changing for me. But there have been so many. I am a reader. I can go through 2 books in a day. I love to read both nonfiction, so self-help stuff, as well as fiction. So my idea of a great time is to be sitting on the beach with a stack of new books on my Kindle app, and just go book after book after book. The first time I vacationed, I went away to Martha's Vineyard. Not the first time I vacationed, but I was going away to Martha's Vineyard, and I had a whole suitcase, literally one suitcase full of books. That was pre-Kindle, Amazon download.
Yes.
I had a whole suitcase full of books. Now I think the ability to sit on the beach and download a book is the best thing in the world. I'm like, oh my God, this is better than sliced bread. This is better than everything. Being able to just finish a book and then immediately download another one. So fiction helps me escape. So it's hard for me to name life-changing books, because I read probably half nonfiction and half fiction, and I just love to do it. And I go through them like this. But the one by Gay Henderson, I've read multiple times. The one about fall in love with the problem, not the solution. And then there's another one that I'm drawing a blank on the name now, by Danielle Porter or something like that. Danielle Laporte. And so that's an excellent one too, about, building businesses. And I'm an entrepreneur. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So anything that helps me do that is, and makes it easier for me, is something that I would consider, quote unquote, life changing.
So what do you think, what's the one thing that's the hardest in being an entrepreneur for you? What has been the challenge for you? And, because I'm sure there's people out there that are entrepreneurs that, we're all entrepreneurs, and, what is it that, was the most challenging in being the entrepreneur you are today that you could share?
It's the loneliness.
Yes.
I'm an introvert, so I don't mind spending time alone, but you really don't have anybody to ask questions of or anything like that. You're just on your own. I know I need to build my own network. I have a great network of relationships, but I probably need to build my own board of directors, women who I can go to, or men I can go to and say like, hey, I'm having this problem. What can I do? So I think the hardest thing is loneliness, not so much alone, but loneliness from it's all up to you. And there's nobody who can really help you. You can hire people to do this, that, or the other, but it's hard to find people to bounce ideas off of. That's why you guys are so fortunate to have the mother-daughter. And my dream is to eventually work with my daughter, who I think is, a smarter, prettier, more lovely version of me. Like, she and I are very similar, but she's prettier, she's smarter, she's more lovely. So and so I said to her every month, I say to her, if this ever gets big, I'm gonna hire you. You can come and work with me. I said, would you work with me? And she said, yeah, mommy, I'd work with you.
Well, I wish that.
Yeah, we wish that for you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
So another question is,
it's a big one.
Yeah, that is.
This is a big one.
If you were able to change the world as it is today, what changes would you make and why?
Oh my God.
It's a loaded one.
Yes, step into it.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
You know what I would like to see people, what would I like to see? I would like to see everybody have what they need, in terms of food, shelter, etc. You forget, because we in the US, greatest country in the world, everything is, like our problems, other people wish they would have our problems.
Sure.
So I would like to see, and I would like to see people stay in their own lane in terms of not trying to take over the world. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in my country, I'm taking care of my
Yes.
people, and I'm not, going out trying to, whatever, take over other countries. So I really would like to see people have everything they need. And I won't say stay in their lane, but you know what I mean.
We
Like,
know what you mean.
Yeah.
because, we hate that country because of this, that, or the
Right.
other. And I'm like, you know what? Everybody's out here just trying to live their best life.
That's right.
In the US, we have the luxury of really living our best lives. And
Yep.
other places, living your best life just means having clean water, you know what I mean? And having something to eat that day. And so this thing where, everybody's got to think the way I think or be the way I am is, I just think leads to a lot of problems.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
right there with you,
that's very
boy.
true.
This is really something else, this world. And I think love, if we can only integrate the love for ourselves, and then it absolutely starts to heal the world one by one. But we're so
Yeah.
divided right now. So
Yeah.
I'm one
Yeah.
to heal the world with love.
Yeah.
That's what we
Yeah.
want to
You
do.
know that old saying, I think it's by Rumi, be the change you wish to see in the world,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it is the truth, because if you
Yes.
love, you're going to create it and it's going to follow you.
Yep.
Yeah. And I really do think, for me, I've learned the last couple of years the importance of therapy. And I'm so glad that people have embraced it, because I was saying to my husband, who was saying something about a coworker or something, I said, look, I just read something the other day. It says they're not arguing with you. They're arguing with whatever trauma they
Mm.
had in the past. And so that's what you're seeing. So it's not, they're not necessarily attacking you. They're dealing with whatever trauma. And so no matter what you do, they have to deal with that. So I'm so happy. It seemed like it started during the pandemic that
Yeah.
people
Yes.
were really focusing on mental wellness, and
Yes.
that makes such a difference. Like, I read something the other day, and it was kind of funny but sad. It's like some of these toxic bosses at work, they don't need an executive career coach. They need a therapist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you bring that stuff into your workplace, whether you want to or not. And so I am really happy to see people dealing with their mental health. And that was
Yes.
not a thing probably even 10 years ago. You know
No.
what I mean? It just wasn't something that people focused on. And now it's hard to find a therapist because everybody wants a therapist.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled that people have realized the importance of having somebody to talk through their issues with, having somebody to deal with past trauma, etc. That is so important. I think that's a real change for the better that has occurred over the last 5 years, something like that.
Yeah.
So do you, if you think about a person who inspires you, who would that be?
Ooh. So when I was growing up, my mother was very strict. So she was very strict and didn't let me go a lot of places. And I was her first one. By the time she got to number 4, my sister, she was like, do whatever. Don't kill anybody and don't kill yourself. So she was like, but I was the first one. And so sometimes with that first one, you're like terrified something's going to happen to him. So so she held me really tightly. So I couldn't go a lot of places. So I read. That's one reason I became such a reader. And I read this biography, this woman, Mary McLeod Bethune, Black woman who started a school in Florida, historically Black college, Bethune-Cookman. And she talked about how she sold sweet potato pies and different stuff to fund the school. I must have read that book 10 times, her biography. And I think I was inspired by that because since then, I've always wanted to create something. Like she created a school that exists to this day. It's a very small college and not well known, but it exists to this day. And so I've always wanted to create something. I also am inspired by my relatives. So my grandfather was a longshoreman. He had a 3rd grade education. He could write his name, but that's about it. but
Wow.
he was the hardest worker. So he worked as a longshoreman, and my brothers would run into people, their age or maybe a little older, who worked with my grandfather on the docks. And they said the thing about my grandfather was he could make a sack whistle, like he, and it was like, he everybody wanted him to work with them because he was such a hard worker. And my uncle, who was a junior, his name, Junior, during the summer, during college, he would come and work on the docks, and he would sign his name. And I think foremen would go around and they would pick people, and they would pick my uncle, who was a big guy. Like my grandfather was like, slim, kind of like, wiry. And my
Uh-huh.
uncle was a big guy. And they would see the name, they would pick my uncle. And then when they would see him, they'd be like, "Oh, you're the wrong one. You're not the right Matthew. You're the wrong Matthew." And then he would start working and be, "I can't believe you Matthew's son," because of my grandfather was such a hard worker that they were like, this guy. So I've really been inspired by my grandparents. My grandfather, on both sides, my grandmothers on both sides, also kind of put a work ethic in us, and we always, you felt like you wanted to work up to what they were doing, and my grandfather, yeah, he set the example for hard work. So
Oh, that's amazing, that you have that experience with, your grandparents, really. That's
yeah,
beautiful. That
yeah,
really
it's yeah, my grandfather was in his late 40s when I was born. So he and my grandmother got married like people did back then. They were 19 or 20. My parents got married later. I don't think my mother had me till she was like 27, but my grandparents were in their late 40s when my mother had me. And I was the first grandchild, and so I had them for a very long time. My grandmother lived till she was 97. My grandfather was in his 80s, but they were a big influence on me. How they lived their lives, how hard they worked, and that kind of stuff. They really were a huge influence on me. And one regret that I have is my kids grew up in New Jersey. I'm from New Orleans, and so they, really know my parents or got to know my parents, but not like I did. We would spend weeks at my grandmother's house during the summer, and my grandfather would give us money to go to the local store and buy candy and that kind of stuff. So those memories, I'll have forever.
nice. So Shelly, where can, first of all, we want to
Thank you.
for everything that you shared tonight, knowing that there are people out there that really
You
need
make
to
an
hear
impact. You really
what
do.
you shared tonight. I love Schmooze. That's
Yes,
awesome.
I love it.
And so where can people find you, Shelly, so that if they want to speak to you or they want to join your event, where can they find you? Why don't you share that with us and
Okay,
everybody?
so the website is schmooze.biz. And you can go on schmooze.biz. You can become a member. It's like $21 a month, something like that. And you get access to the mini master classes. So next week we have one called Reframing Failure so you can bounce back. And I just did a LinkedIn post that may pop up tomorrow. I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to schedule tomorrow or not, about a time when I got let go. And it really is hard. Like articulating, you're trying to network and you're trying to explain why you're no longer in this job. And so it's hard, it damages your psyche, your
Yep.
confidence, etc. So we have a woman who wrote a book called The Layoff Cooties. It's not you, it's them. And so she talks about that. So I'm going to moderate. She's going to be on the panel as well as another woman who specializes in helping women excel in male-dominated environments. She was an engineer and worked with all men. And so that's the kind of stuff. So you want to reframe that failure so you can talk about it, so you can feel free to go out in the world and network and stuff. Because if you feel ashamed or defeated or, defensive, that comes through and that inhibits you from building a network of business relationships because you don't really want to talk to anybody, And so that is next week. And, we've done several of them. We do 3 or 4 a month. And so go to schmooze.biz. We also do live events where you can actually put in practice what you've learned in the mini master classes about networking with people and reaching out to people. So we talked about Kelly Lynn Adams. She just reached out to me on LinkedIn. And so she did certain things and it turned into an in real life relationship. So
Yeah.
she did 2 of my events, and she's a force to be reckoned with.
Oh,
She is,
She is. You know, that's the core.
yeah, she is a force. So yeah, if people are interested in Schmooze, it's schmooze.biz.
Okay.
And our saying at Schmooze is that relationships close gaps. They close gaps
Mhm.
between where you are in your career and where you want to be. So whether you want a promotion, whether you want a career pivot and change to a different job, a different industry, whether you want a corporate board seat, a lot of that is driven by relationships. And sometimes people feel like, oh, it's a little manipulative, but it's not if you do it like Kelly Lynn does it. If you're willing to reciprocate, seriously. So anybody
That's
who
No,
true.
it is true.
I'm happy to introduce them to anybody I know, to share my network. I tell people all the time, go through my contacts. If you see somebody you'd like to know and I know them well enough that they're going to respond to my message, I'm happy to introduce you. So if I'm willing to do that with other people, then that feeling like, oh, I'm being manipulative, that kind of goes away. Because if people
Yeah.
ask me, I will help. So if you're willing to help, it's manipulative if you're not willing to help, if you're
Right.
only in it for yourself. But if
Right.
you're willing to help other people, then that whole networking thing kind of loses some of its stigma, so to speak.
Yeah. So awesome. So we thank you
Yeah, God,
for
thank you.
everything
Thank
that
you.
you've shared. I know
Yes.
people will reach out to you
Without a
and
doubt.
come to your events. They're going to they sound amazing. Like I
They
said, I
do.
wish you were here in Florida. We come to an event.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll happen in the future. Who knows? And what else?
Also, you want to tell them a little bit about our YouTube.
Go ahead, Rose.
Please.
Go ahead.
We would love for you to subscribe.
Subscribe.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is it's Mother Daughter Dynamic Duo. And it's on, where is it on?
YouTube.
No. What are the, Spotify?
Oh, right.
Oh,
Spotify and Apple.
Apple.
You can find us there, the audio, obviously. And then also you can see this, I'm sure,
Yeah.
as you know, we're live. So you can see it on Facebook and LinkedIn and see Shelly's beautiful time with us and get her services. And what else, Roche?
Just DM us at Coach Rochelle at Comcast.net.
If you want to do a free discovery call, we are loving you up to come and play with us and really get all of who you are, all the authenticity of who you are. And
How did they reach you, Alicia?
well, that's good, Roche. They could reach me and email me at shadowbstr3@yahoo.com and or DM us.
And we have something really great that we are going to present probably in December.
Yes.
So it's exciting. It's a masterclass, so it's going to be very exciting. Yeah.
And we have some other opportunities.
Yes.
Once it's landed, we'll let you know
Yeah.
about it because we don't like to say it until it's
Yeah.
actually landed.
right.
Landed in the building.
You
So
two are amazing. So this
Aw,
has
thank
been a lot of
you.
fun.
Thank
thank
you.
you, Shelly. The thing is, we like to have a good time.
We
And
do.
you know what? It's people like you that are doing great things in the
Yes.
world.
That
Helping people,
inspire.
yeah, that continue to lighten us up and bring joy to the world and schmooze it up.
Yeah, they do. I love the
Always be
name.
schmoozing.
Always the
schmoozing.
schmooze.
Exactly.
So, yeah. What?
And so what we like to say at the end is love is the beauty of the soul.
Mm.
And that's the truth. God, if everybody can do that, what a world.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So again,
Thank you, Shell.
we
You are the
appreciate
best.
you.
Thank you guys. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Our
All right,
pleasure.
everyone. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Mwah. Bye, Shelly.
Bye.